Ann Arbor is a beautiful city in Michigan that is cold most of the year. It is home to the University of Michigan, which was founded over 200 years ago. Today, with the help of Ann Arbor and the composer Hildegard Westerkamp, we are going to explore today's word of the day: listen. Because Ann Arbor is such a beautiful city with lots of different places to listen, I'm going to teach you how to take a sound walk so that you can listen to the world around you, wherever you may be. But first, let's talk about the term soundscape. Your soundscape is a unique composition of sounds that are happening around you at any given moment. A sound walk is a walk that you take with the goal of listening to your environment. A sound walk exposes our ears to soundscapes, no matter where we are. Westerkamp, a Canadian composer who pioneered the sound walk, suggests that we all need to pay more attention to our ears and what our world is saying to us. Vipassana, or to see things as they really are, is one of India's most ancient techniques of meditation. A sound walk is similar to a Vipassana meditation, focusing on silent observation of the present moment. A sound walk can be done alone, or even more fun, with a buddy. For your first sound walk, the only thing you need is your body and the senses that you enjoy using. If you are deaf, hard of hearing, have no or limited sight, or if your ability to touch is also limited, you can use any of your senses to listen on your sound walk. And you'll soon discover that listening involves much more than hearing. I also recommend grabbing something to write with and something to write on. Or you can use your phone so that you can journal, take photos, and recordings if you wish. These are entirely optional. Before we begin, I want you to help me out. What do you think of when you hear the word sound? You can just shout them at the screen or write them down in your journal. And what about the word listening? Sometimes we are told to listen when we need to pay attention to something. Like when someone says, "Hey, listen up." One of my favorite composers, Pauline Oliveros, says that listening doesn't just mean hearing something, but it makes us want to act. If you hear a family member weeping, you act by asking, "What's wrong?" If you hear a song you love, it makes you want to get up and dance. And have you ever felt like someone could hear you, but they weren't really listening to you? Listening connects our minds with our bodies. So, let's head out. I'm going to take you around Ann Arbor so you can get some ideas for what to do on your own sound walk. Along the way, we'll talk more about how to listen to the world around you. And at the end of this video, we'll also talk about how you can create your own soundscape composition. We're going to start by first listening to the sounds of our bodies. Can you hear your heartbeat? What does the blood in your veins sound like? Listen to your breath. You are now a part of your environment. So do you hear your body and the environment speaking to each other? Which is the quietest sound of your body? Identify where you are. I'm at a street corner where I found this marvelous tree. Now lead your ears away from your body and listen a bit further into the distance. What is the quietest sound? What else do you hear? What else? What else? What else? From here, I can't hear it, but just nearby is the farmer's market. Now that our ears are warmed up, let's go check it out. There are sure to be some interesting sounds there. This soundscape is quite different from the street corners. How is it different? How is it similar? We are going to now use our imaginations to use all of our senses to listen to this soundscape. I'm thinking about what my feet sound like when they touch the ground. Here are my toes. My toes. I can't help but wonder what my toes can hear from all the way down there. Let's imagine what our food sounds like. Listen really hard to the ingredients that keep us alive. These veggies are alive. Can you hear them too? Listen to these tomatoes ripening. What does that sound like? And can you hear the bees that created this honey, or the sound that it will make when it is poured? What about when it sticks to your hands? Now try to move without making any sound. Is it possible? Now listen nearby. What do you hear? Make a list. What else do you hear? Other people? Nature sounds? Mechanical sounds? Can you detect interesting rhythms? Regular beats? What is the highest? The lowest pitch? What else do you hear? What else? What else? You might be able to hear a small nearby carillon or bell tower. The chime master, Heather, plays familiar tunes on the carillon for all at the farmer's market to hear. What do the bells make you think of? Can you hear each bell being hit by hammers? Can you hear each bell's long tone? Ann Arbor has several bell towers, but the most famous is Burton Tower. What sounds do you hear close up? Far away? What else? What else? What else? Do you like what you hear? pick out the sounds you like the most. Are there any sounds that don't belong? What else do you hear? Let the sound of the water soothe your spirit. Mimic some of the sounds out loud with your voice. Hiss. Westerkamp believes that water has many different voices. She says, water winds its way through channels and gaps between rocks and murmurs in new voices, which you have not heard yet. And if you were to listen to more water, there would be more new voices, an endless variety of them. So let's go to Argo Park to see what she means. We are now at Argo Dam. This is no beaver dam. Argo Dam gave the city of Ann Arbor electricity for 39 years. The water rushing through the dam has to be forceful enough to generate electricity inside. It spills out here into this vast reservoir. It might be fun to fish here, but this is no place you want to go swimming. On the other side lives the Huron River, a river so peaceful that you can see people kayaking on this particular day. The soundscape here is like a symphony. While there aren't literal musical instruments like a drum or a flute or a carillon, these sounds create the music of our environment, as experienced by you through your senses: sight, sound, touch, smell, and taste. This water is fresh water. So what would the taste of salt water sound like? Can you smell things like fish or algae in the water? What do they sound like? What do you think fish hear? What do the rays of sunshine sound like when they hit the water's surface? Listen hard. Imagine. What else do you hear? What else? What else? What else? We don't just listen with our ears. So let's head indoors a bit and talk about listening with our eyes, hands, and our imagination. I love listening to different surfaces. Let's start with something squishy and soft. This yarn is used to make beautiful fabrics for clothing. What does the yarn sound like to you? In your ears, do the different colors change the yarn's sound? We are in a yarn shop. What do you hear around you? Imagine running your hands on the yarn and squishing it. Listen to the yarn squish in your hands. What do these different fabrics sound like? Can you see the different textures? We can also imagine the sounds of the animals that produce this yarn. Alpacas, sheep, goats. What else do you hear? Listen to these surfaces. Listen up close. Listen far away. What do you hear? Listen. One of my favorite living textures to see around town are all of the vines. The buildings here are covered in ivy. I love to hear them flutter, hear them stretch. Can you hear the vines crawl? What do you think it sounds like all the way up there? Do you think that they're staring at us, marveling at their beauty? Can they hear us? What else do you hear? Listen to the twisted tendrils. What do they sound like? These vines are near flagpoles. Listen. Can you hear them flapping in the wind? Can you hear the people who fought for these flags? Can you hear the people they represent? Listen to their strength. Listen for their resilience. Listen to their power. Do you think the flags can hear you listening? What else do you hear? What else? What else? It looks like a storm is about to roll in, but we have one more stop. Let's look around this cozy bookstore and see what we can listen for. Think of your favorite book or story. What does it sound like? Can you hear all of these books speaking at once? What do you hear? Can you hear all of the people who have read these books? What do you hear? Sure enough, the thunderstorm has rolled in. How beautiful to see the rain fall and the bright lightning streaking across the sky. Let's listen in. What do you hear? Thunderstorms can be scary. Are you afraid of thunderstorms? Can you listen to your fear? How about joy? Or love? These are some of my loved ones.
I love fresh strawberries.
Friendship may be one of the most
but I do
important
not like
things.
strawberry ice cream.
We can hear their voices, but I'm also listening to the expressions of their eyes. What does that sound like?
One of the 7 wonders of the islands where I live in. I'm really afraid of them.
I'm listening to the way their lips and tongues move while they speak.
It just like makes my heart pound.
Each person is interacting with their own soundscape. What do you think they're listening to?
Makes my heart pound.
Can you hear them breathe? If you're on a sound walk with a buddy, what do you think they're listening to?
Important things for me.
I like looking at myself in the mirror.
I love to read.
One of the most
And they just make me
important
feel
things.
loved.
I like thinking that this is a place that they need for us to go.
There's a lot of beauty in things we don't understand.
Without speaking, listen to their feelings. Without speaking, listen to your feelings, their emotions, your emotions. What do you sound like together? What does loneliness sound like? Every moment of every day, the soundscape changes. Life flows on, and today we flowed with it. I took you through a sound walk without planning ahead where we were going. Another way of saying we improvised. As we've seen, most of the sounds we hear are out of our control. So what if we plan our sound walk ahead of time by choosing places that might sound unique or make us feel certain emotions? What if the sounds that we can make and the sound of our environment makes for us came together? Well, we'd be creating soundscape music. So let's imagine a piece of soundscape music about the sunset. The sunset will be our main theme, or our melody, that runs throughout the soundscape composition. We could start by going to a historic place. Then why don't we head to a majestic lighthouse? Then the beach nearby. As the sun sets, the music will end by listening to a lively pier, but only from a distance. The composers are Murray Schafer, who coined the term soundscape, and Hildegard Westerkamp, who coined the term soundwalk, were especially inspired by the ways indigenous people, or people native to the place you live, have used deep listening skills, like we've talked about today, to build communities, create art, and communicate. Taking a sound walk is one way for us to connect with indigenous people and their histories in the places we live. Westerkamp writes, "It was a matter of survival to be able to understand and even imitate the sounds of nature. Any sound encountered during a hunt, such as a cracking stick, would carry very specific acoustic meanings to an indigenous hunter and would give clues about animals and their whereabouts." Cities are full of acoustic clues, which on many levels are important for our survival. We must listen to our cities as indigenous people listen to their forests. She challenges each of us. Will those of us who are not indigenous take the time to listen to indigenous voices? Will we listen with them through their silences? Silences that often seem rather long to us, but in actual fact are active pauses in time, places of a listening to the heart, in search of words that will truly voice the essences of their cultures. Where listening is the central focus for learning, information gathering, mutual understanding, and reconciliation, a whole new dynamic emerges. Respect for everything and every body that is heard, and an equalization of differences and hierarchies. In other words, the act of listening itself deepens the understanding of ecological, social, and cultural relationships. Let us continue to listen to the little cracking sticks which, in disguise of car horns, radios, air conditioners, and tire screeches, influence our daily life and subtly affect our hopes for survival in this urban jungle. Perhaps soundwalking can be a step towards enhancing our chances of survival. Or it can simply be fun.
love fresh strawberries, but I do not like strawberry ice cream, strawberry shortcake, or anything strawberry, even strawberry jam.
Today I'm thinking about stars and planets and galaxies and the universe and how many stars there are in the universe.
There's a lot of beauty in things we don't understand. It's an opportunity for growth.
It makes me so happy to watch the birds on my balcony. Even though I know that we're not friendly, I like thinking that this is a place that they can trust to go to get what they need.
I love to read. I will read any genre, any format. I try to read 1 or 2 books a week. Sometimes I even take a day off just to read, and today is one of those days.
Why, but making phone calls gives me extreme anxiety. If I have to call and order food or call and take care of any business, it just makes my heart pound and I hate it.
I recently bought some clothes that make me feel really good, and I like looking at myself in the mirror in them and how I feel in them, and they just make me feel a lot more confident.
What does north mean when we live on a sphere?
Hi, I'm recording this to show you a little bit of the lake. It's called the Lake of Setsidaj. It's one of the 7 wonders of the islands where I live in.
Friendship may be one of the most important things for me in this entire world.
I'm really happy that after many days of the weather being really hot, today it's going to be much cooler and it might even rain a little.
What? It's called the Sweetheart. Oh, the Sweetheart.